Hello my friends, we're in Qimen at our friend's factory. Most of our Qimen tea is bought here. Not all of it, but the majority. They've built a new factory building. It took about 6 months and here it is, very big. There is almost no more spring tea. The last batches are produced in that section. Wei Diao is done there. The main part of the tea is ready and is packed in beautiful boxes made of Huangshan pine. And we're going to taste the tea. This is a big enterprise. They produce many varieties here and the volume of production is big. They've built this big building to increase the volume of production. This year it's even bigger than the last year. This little dog likes me. Last year he was licking my leg during our 3-hour tasting session. They produce many varieties. We'll have many things to taste. They have very cheap red teas and high-grade spring teas. They have everything. It's great and convenient for us. Here we can see the Wei Diao stage. The workers are mixing the tea. It's necessary to move it constantly to ensure that the tea doesn't deteriorate during the initial drying stage. I've rarely seen this before. There's the thermometer. They add heat when making this type of Qimen red tea. And the temperature is pretty high, about 35 degrees centigrade. The tea is warm, but not hot, but warmer than many other sorts during this process. It's interesting that the same technological processes have different nuances for different types of tea. It's not very visible. They use the same equipment, the same actions, nothing special. There are tiny nuances like this. Moreover, it's interesting that 5 different types of tea go through Wei Diao at the same time. They separate them just using wooden boards. There are more or less of different types. They do it to prevent them from getting mixed up. The volume of production is not that big. The factory is big and they produce dozens of tons of tea per season. It's the last harvest of this season. After about a 10-day break, they'll start producing summer tea. They make that too. But it's not for us. We came at the very end of spring tea production. We'll be tasting and choosing it. Probably we will even try their green tea. We used to work only with red tea from this factory. We never tasted green tea. Probably we'll like it and add it to our collection. The work goes on all day, like in most other tea factories. After the end of Wei Diao, they gradually load the tea into crushing machines. 4 of them are working at the same time. A part of it has already gone through this process. It goes on for more than 2 hours. They continue crushing the tea, and they add more when the Wei Diao has ended. They had 5 different batches of tea, and they were separated. Crushing goes gradually. After the crushing stage, workers put the tea in these baskets. and place them in this small fermentation chamber, and then wait. Now they are monitoring the Wei-Diao process that hasn't ended yet, and the process of crushing and fermentation. 2 stages of thermal treatment follow, and then the tea is ready. Now we'll see what fermentation looks like. The workers explaining how they make the temperature higher. They put charcoal here and water. The fermentation lasts for 8 hours. Charcoal and water. The water is heated by an element to increase the air humidity, and the temperature stays at 34 degrees centigrade. It's like a little sauna for tea. The process of fermentation is very different in different places. Humidity differs, the process of increasing humidity, from boilers like in Yixing to buckets with evaporating water. They increase temperature and humidity differently, but the main principle is the same. A basket half full of tea that has gone through the crushing stage. It has a beautiful red-green color. The buds have turned red, and the leaves are still green. It's beautiful. After the fermentation, all tea will have this brownish color, and then the tea will be ready. But the fermentation will last for several hours now, and it will be ready only in the morning. So it's morning now. This day started with taking the first basket of freshly fermented tea. It's spent all night here. It has an extremely pleasant smell. We have to separate the tea to break the small lumps. And after a short while, the thermal treatment will begin. And then the tea is ready. We had a very interesting dish for breakfast, and I'd like to show it to you. All the burners of this factory are located here. Regardless of size, the factory uses firewood. All stages of Honggan or final drying are done using firewood. Firstly, they're in a forest. In Qimen, Huangshan and Anhui regions, there are many forests. There's a sawmill nearby. They use pine wood to produce timber that is then used to produce timber, doors and furniture. It's a small enterprise. They only produce wood. They don't assemble furniture here. This territory is under strict control. All types of industry, even relatively safe ones, are prohibited in the mountain area. Only basic wood processing and tea production are allowed. Here the workers eat, as do we. It's an interesting dish. I wanted to speak separately about it. They're just chicken eggs. In China, people like boiling eggs in something, starting with some really exotic things that I don't want to speak about. Some of you know what I'm talking about. And ending up with some pretty pleasant things, like boiling eggs in red tea. They produce the red tea here, and they have huge volumes of tea dust and small fractions left over. It's good tea, but not in great condition. You can even see some of the tea dust on these eggs. So they boil the eggs in red tea. They're very delicious and have a tea taste. And the eggs turn out to have a stimulating effect, especially when the shells are broken. Last night we were given these eggs, and I thought that they were boiled in some kind of soy sauce. They boil eggs in different liquids here. But then I realized that I didn't want to sleep at all. What happened, I thought? And it turned out that they prepare nutritious eggs like these. It's not an exotic thing. In ancient times, they used tea as a food and added it to rice, like people of Central Asia do. People from Tibet prepare a soup with tea and meat. They use tea as a nutritious product. This tradition appeared long ago and still exists now. A Qimen speciality. The cook showed us how they make these eggs. This is a rice cooker. I said that they use dust, but that's not true. They do use leaf as well. Tea and spices and eggs are boiled in this mixture. This tea is very strong, maybe 50 to 70 grams in the pot. It's good. This illustrates how the belief that Chinese only cut Russian forests isn't true. In China, they cut their forests too, in big volumes. They cut young pine trees. The sawmill is quite big. They choose the trees they're going to cut, not just all the trees they can see. After they've cut a suitable tree, it goes to production. In Huangshan, this region produces the largest volumes of pine wood. No morning can be good without good tea. So we decided to wait until the rain ends before going to the plantations. The weather's rainy today. They usually don't pick tea when it's rainy. Well, they do pick tea when it's raining too, but they try not to pick large volumes of leaves. Walking in the plantations when it's raining isn't that nice. So we decided to start this morning with tea, to taste this year's harvest. We'll start with Hong Mao Feng tea, or red Mao Feng. Mao Feng is one of the most popular teas of Anhui province and the Huangshan region. Huangshan Mao Feng is one of the Sida Mingcha, 10 great Chinese teas, and it's produced in a big region, not only in the Huangshan mountains. Actually, Mao Feng tea is produced in other regions as well, and moreover, it looks different. Mao Feng from Sichuan looks really different. Today we're starting with Hong Mao Feng. Let's assess this tea. It has a long leaf, and it's so called because it looks like Mao Feng tea rolled a bit stronger. There are many leaves that remind me of Mao Feng tea shape. Green Mao Feng tea, that's what we're going to try now. It's interesting that it's a pretty cheap tea set. It's a common thing in factories. It's made in Jingzhen, not far from here, in Yangtze province, relatively close. We'll go there today by car, after tasting and choosing tea. We've been working for a really long time with this factory. That's why we're sure about the high quality of their product. But we want to taste everything they've made this year. Last year we didn't buy this particular Hongmao Feng. The first brew doesn't have a bright aroma. I can't describe it yet. We'll taste it one more time.
Аромат достаточно приятный у чая.
The aroma is very pleasant.
Такой в целом классический тименский аромат. Вот, тименский.
It's a classic Qimen aroma.
Скажем так, стоит отдельно от.
Qimen red teas have a special aroma. It's different from other red teas. It has a unique note. It's pretty strong, I think. If we're talking about Qimen teas in general, it can be compared with other Anhui red teas, like tea from Luan, but the volume of production is small. It reminds me of tea from Yixing a tiny bit. Zhaozhang is the closest. Wuyishan is near, and the technologies of tea production are similar.
На самом деле, мне кажется, когда в этот сорт его очень здорово.
I like brewing this tea really strong.
Мне кажется, он выдержит крепкое заваривание, при этом.
It will be delicious when brewed strong with no bitter notes.
Есть у него такая вот нотка.
It has this Zhaozhang note,
аромат.
or fruit aroma.
Наверное, больше всего это похоже на.
It's like peach stone or something of this kind.
Что-то такое. Вишневая косточка.
Cherry stone.
Да.
Yeah.
Так, ну, с этим чаем все понятно. Это чай гаохэ.
I know this tea.
是红毛峰。
Hongmao Feng.
现在喝红毛峰。Дима, давай. Подошла хозяйка завода, довольная.
The owner of the factory came. She's happy that we like everything.
Так, дегустируем следующий чай. Называется.
We're tasting a new tea. It's called Zhanglo.
Называется ароматные локоны.
Fragrant curls.
В этом году немножечко он.
Its production is more expensive this year
Прежде всего из-за того, что поднялись
as the wages grow.
и свежий лист поднялся в цене. Вот,
So the fresh leaves are more expensive.
Зянло немножечко
That's why Zhanglo is a bit more expensive.
остается в бюджетной
But
категории.
anyway, it's not expensive tea.
Аромат,
I really like the aroma of the tea. I'll warm it up.
да, очень приятный.
Yes, it's very pleasant.
Реально такой фруктовый
It
цвет.
has fruity and flowery notes.
Хорошему чаю не нужен ароматизатор.
Good tea needs no artificial flavors. Good tea is good on its own.
Вот. На самом деле здесь вообще.
The peculiarity of Anhui
В
tea
целом аньхойского чая. Вот,
and red
но
Qimen tea
именно тименского, то, что
is that even the cheapest teas have a very good aroma.
с ароматом, как правило, все в порядке.
Anyway, you have to choose. Paying attention to the manufacturer is important.
Но если производитель умеет выбирать.
But if producers know how to choose good raw materials and can use the technology well, the aroma will be good.
Да. Да, у этого чая.
This one's aroma is even better.
Вкус пока еще не очень.
The flavor isn't clear yet.
Конкретная.
A particular feature of Qimen teas, not all of course,
Конечно же, сортов, потому что.
there are many Qimen teas,
Но вот это вот очень такая чистота вкуса.
is the clearness of taste
Вот нету почти грубых нот даже.
and no rough notes.
То есть он все равно достаточно такой.
It's very mild.
Да. Продегустировали.
We've tasted the tea
Понравился.
and we like it.
Понравился этот Сянло. Будем сейчас
We
следующий.
like the Zhanglo too.
Обсудили с владельцами завода особенно.
We've discussed the peculiarities of economic relations between the Russia, the EU, US and China with the owners of this factory.
Традиционный рассказ. Вот.
A traditional topic.
Китайский чай, почему меньше.
Why we sell more Chinese tea and less Indian tea.
С Китаем у нас все хорошо и так далее. Вот.
Why our relations with China are okay, etc. A conversation that happens at every factory.
Чаек.
The tea has warmed us up.
Дождь по-прежнему продолжается, ждем, когда закончится. Сейчас он
The rain's going on. And we'll taste some new tea.
Так, дегустируем следующий чай
We're tasting a new high-grade tea.
высокой категории. Этот чай называется Qimen. Он похож
It's
немного
called Jinmei,
вот, по
similar to Jinjunmei,
по аромату, но все-таки
judging by how it looks and by its aroma.
отличаются.
But anyway, it's Qimen tea.
Пробуем. Да, но это, конечно, совсем
We're
другое.
tasting. Well, yes, this tea is of a different level.
Все-таки больше люблю гайвани, чем фарфоровые чайники.
I prefer gaiwans to porcelain teapots. I don't like having these ropes attached. It makes me feel bad,
Чайникам
especially when they're attached to cheap teapots. It's easier to break it and buy a new one.
сохранение ниточек,
Those ropes are useless. If the teapot falls, it will break anyway. The rope won't help.
чтобы она разбилась, скорее
It'll only help not to lose the lid.
потерялась. Следующий чай у нас называется Гую Тен
The
Сян.
next tea is called Guyu Chiang Jiang Luo. It was made before the rice rain season,
Примерно 15-го.
on the 15th of April.
Вот, называется Гую Тен Сян.
It's literally called Guyu Chiang Jiang Luo, or Jiang Luo tea, that is made before the rice rain season. It's very good. It has a very sweet aftertaste.
Да, этот чай нам очень понравился.
We like this tea very much.
Дождевые ароматные локоны.
It can literally be translated as fragrant curls collected before the rain.
Так, сменяем чай на чай, который здесь называется
We'll taste another tea.
Шанхун, то есть дикорастущий красный.
It's called Ye Sheng Hong, or wild red tea.
Это такой
Actually, it's not wild.
делается на сырья.
It's made from big leaves like oolong leaves.
Вот, сейчас посмотрим на
We'll see how it
в
tastes.
работе. Вот, внешне такой разлапистый и не очень
The
аккуратный.
leaves are very big and they don't look neat.
Это волнует в меньшей степени, чем аромат и вкус, поэтому сейчас мы его тоже
But we're primarily interested in its flavour and aroma, so we'll give it a go.
дегустируем чай, который
We're
здесь
tasting the tea that they call wild.
просто крупнолистный красный чай.
Actually, that's just a big leaf red tea.
Аромат, кстати, у сухого листа очень даже
The aroma of the dry leaf is very good.
Еще этот чай называют дахун-ча. Большой красный чай.
It's also called Da Hong Cha, or big red tea.
Ну, потому что большой красный... Почему большой
It's called so because of the big leaf size. That's why they call it like that.
Да, этот чай, вот мы заметили, не держит пролива, его надо...
It doesn't suit for gong fu brewing. You can brew it once or boil it.
Такой бюджетный чаек, но...
It's very cheap. It reminds me of gong fu hong teas from Yunnan,
Но не так держит пролива.
but it's not as good as in gong fu brewing.
Мы сейчас приехали в место, которое имеет особое значение.
We've come to a really important place for Qimen tea.
Это, по сути, родина семейского.
It's the birthplace of Qimen red tea.
Называется Таоюань или персиковый.
This village is called Tao Yuan, or Peach Garden. It was founded in the Song dynasty. It's about 800 years old. For a long time it was undisturbed. Then in 2012 it started being protected on the provincial level in order to protect the historic ancient monuments that remained in the village and to make it a cultural landmark. It's an open-air museum. There are tea gardens, ancient buildings and bridges. We'll see all these things when we go in the village. It's interesting that Qimen red tea that comes from this place won the first prize of the 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition. And since then, red tea was developing, so it all started here. Today is May the 1st, it's a holiday, but the village is closed for tourists. I don't know why, usually holidays are good days for tourists. The owners of the factory have good relations with the locals. They organized a special trip for us. The keeper came here from the city, and he opened the village up for us to see, and it's free. Now it's even more interesting to see what's in here.
Заехали в наше излюбленное место.
We came to our favorite place.
Значит,
It's a village at the end of the world.
деревня действительно на краю мира. Мы
It's a very distant village located near Qimen,
на самом деле
but not that close to Qimen, a few dozen kilometers.
приехали. И здесь тоже делают
They
чай.
produce tea here too, but you can't see the bushes.
А не видно его по той причине,
You can't see them here because the small plantations are located in different places.
тут чуть-чуть,
There,
тут чуть-чуть,
there.
здесь как бы его очень немного
They're
относительно.
relatively small compared to the
И на
forests.
самом деле это действительно очень
And
здорово.
it's great that here in Anhui province, almost all the plantations are like these,
Плантации здесь такие. Вот, и я так понял, что это
thanks to some local laws, I guess.
законодательству, вот, то, что действительно
In most cases, villages are located in the forests,
деревни находятся в лесу, и
and cutting forests is prohibited,
не только в каких-то отдельных территориях, но
not only in specially protected
и
areas,
особо охраняемых все
but
равно.
even unprotected areas have their own
То
rules.
же самое можно брать в Люань, в Хошань, значит, в Тайпине,
Like in Liuan, Huaoshan, Taiping,
в
Huangshan,
других районах, собственно, здесь
and in other places like Qimen, etc.
деревня уже самый край цивилизации, дальше уже ничего нет.
This village is on the edge of civilization. There's nothing behind it, just mountains.
Чая, именно который
And what's interesting, they have not only cultivated tea, but also wild tea here.
то есть настолько мало,
but
что
not
можно
much.
его там,
The volume of tea is so small that only some producers can take some gins of tea just for themselves.
дине 10-15.
Some produce 10 to 15 gins.
И еще
The volume is really small.
дикорастущие чайные деревья,
And wild tea trees are growing here as well.
тоже очень мало, но говорят, что вот
There are not many of them, but I saw photos of trees with big trunks about 100 years old.
вот, но сами не знаю, что за
But they don't know what cultivar it is. They don't pick the leaves.
В лесу можно встретить.
You can see 2 to 3 trees of this kind in the forest.
Большая, около 1000 плюс-минус.
The mountains are not high here, about 1,000 meters above sea level.
Лес достаточно
But
трудный.
anyway, the forest is very hard to pass,
Горы достаточно есть скальные.
as the mountains are steep with cliffs in some places.
Чаем, конечно,
Picking tea is very difficult.
делать, потому что нет дорог, то есть обычно
There are no roads, footpaths only.
уходят в лес с утра,
Some pickers go to the forest in the morning,
вечером поздно возвращаются,
and then they come back late at night.
обрабатывают, то есть
They start processing the leaf. It's very difficult.
говорили, что может быть в следующем году или через год
We decided to come back here in a year or two.
чай собирают где-то обычно
This tea is picked in late April,
апреля, то есть непосредственно
just before the rains.
перед дождями. Как раз сейчас вот уже
It's the rainy season now.
дожди, мы сегодня
We waited for the rain to end, tasted some tea,
поехали посмотреть на это место, посмотреть на...
and now we want to see this place, to see Taoyuan village,
Сейчас, наверное, снова поедем на завод,
that's not far from here.
некоторые сорта.
Now we're going back to the factory to taste some teas that were made this year.
Линейку
We'd like to make an assortment of Qimen red teas wider.
интересный, иметь много
This tea is unique and special.
Ну, тюменский все-таки красный
There are
чай.
many varieties of it.
Тихо. Большое имя,
Qimen tea has a good reputation and is well known,
поэтому хочется...
and that's why we'd like to pay more attention to it.
В этой деревушке сохранились очень колоритные два
There
старых.
are 2 old picturesque houses in this village.
Немного можно встретить. Обычно,
Only a few are left, clay houses of this kind.
как правило, еще даже не так-то давно, то есть еще в середине прошлого
Not
века.
long ago, in the middle of the 50s and 60s, and even the 80s,
На деле большинство было
most houses were like these too.
В 60-е годы практически все дома здесь были такие.
And in the 50s and 60s, almost all houses looked like these.
Было порушено, но еще
Then in the period of the Cultural Revolution, many buildings were destroyed.
точно
Their intention was not just to destroy to build something new. They thought that the buildings of this kind were connected with their ancestors, with some religious beliefs and
в
traditions.
том числе помимо храмов
So not only temples and monasteries were destroyed,
тоже.
they also destroyed common houses as well. Then came the second wave,
Но тема
when the economic growth started. But the idea of a cultural preservation was not really popular,
было порушено, поэтому сейчас
and more buildings were destroyed. So these days there are not many houses like these left. But in the 90s and in the early 2000s, they understood that it's necessary to protect everything.
понаделали
They started rebuilding or even building anew old villages all over China, as they wanted to restore this tradition,
обучение,
Gusheng or old cities.
вот, где частично были действительно
Some of the buildings were really ancient, some were new, some were quite old.
посещали и сегодня.
We've seen many buildings of that kind even today.
Вот,
We've been to Guizhou city recently, so they did it to protect this old culture and architecture. The situation was much more difficult with villages. There are much fewer of them, and there are few big buildings left. And what's great, it's not a specially protected village, it's just a common settlement. But the people who live here have built new houses near to these two. And this one is conserved. They don't really live here. But as I can see, probably somebody lives in this house. There's a new concrete pathway here, and the basement and steps are made of stone. The floors are made of wood. The building's in good condition. Probably they rebuilt the roof, but it's made of old roof tile. They've renewed the rafters and used the old tile again. It's an interesting building. We'll have a closer look. After a walk in the mountains and visiting a small village and a chat with the locals, it started raining heavily, and we came back to the factory. I've asked our friend to bring some Lao red teas from their separate warehouse in Qimen city. You know that we've had Qimen Lao Cha that we've bought from these guys. And he asked friends of his to bring some old red tea they've made. The first tea was made in 2016, the second in 2015. And the third is even older. He doesn't remember how old it is. The first tea reminds me of Qimen, the one many of us tried the previous year. Qimen. It seems that we've brought exactly this tea, but it was made in 2017, not in 2016. This one was made in 2016. The second tea is Qimen Qiang Cha, tea that's made before Qimen. It's high-grade tea, even though it's aged. It's about 4 years old. It still is high value. And the third tea is Luo. It's the same Hong Luo tea or red curls. But it's even older, if I'm not mistaken, about 6 years old. They don't remember its age. Now we'll taste all of them. I've rinsed the tea. Unfortunately, I have no gaiwan here. The teapot is not very convenient. So I decided to take the tasting sets that are usually used for long brewing, but I will use them instead of gaiwans. There's no other way to do it. We'll taste it.
They're
pretty convenient to use instead of gaiwans. I've done so before. I don't like doing long brewing for tasting sessions. That's an English tradition. I prefer tasting tea Gong Fu style. You can understand how long it will last. That's the most important thing. You understand its quality. You can understand the aroma better. And it's important to use porcelain or glass only. No other materials that absorb aromas. Only the teapot can be made of clay. Clay cups can be good for pu'er teas, or something with a strong flavour, not exquisite teas though. We continue surprising our Chinese friends with our tea drinking capacities. Now we're tasting 3 fresh teas. First is Hong Luo, the second Hong Mao Feng, and the third Jin Mei. All are Qimen red teas. They belong to the middle category, not very cheap but not very expensive. Now we'll taste them. All 3 look good. This producer's quality is high. Trust but verify, as they say. We do this same monotonous procedure every year. I like the flowery note of the second one, of the Hong Mao Feng. This one has a fermentative, sour note in its aroma. This one has flowery notes too. We'll get rid of the first brew. Hong Luo has the strongest liquor. Well, it's not surprising. Hong Mao Feng is my favorite from these. They're all very good, each one is special. But this one is cosmic. That's it. We've tasted all the teas of this year and some of the previous years. Some Lao Cha teas. Everything this factory can offer, everything he has, we tasted everything. A total of about 20 teas, including those we've tried this morning. We've chosen about 10 or 12 teas for our collection. Most of them were produced here. Some were produced in a factory that this one has good connections with, that I asked to bring here. Now we're going to move further. We're going to Jingdezhen. We're going to buy some celadon. The rain has stopped and now they're receiving fresh leaves. Pickers come here and bring their leaves. All the leaves are surprisingly dry. Probably they picked it when it wasn't raining. They pause when it starts raining heavily. People are very friendly and the factory is very good. We'll continue working with them. And now we have to leave.